Captain Levin Harker hadn't imagined that his mission to the planet Xylaris would become a test of his endurance, not against alien threats or hostile wildlife, but against the crushing emptiness that surrounded him, day in and day out. His orders had been simple: explore the planet, assess any remaining viable ecosystems, and determine whether there was any life left worth saving. But after 6 long months of isolation, it felt like Xylaris was no more than a planetary graveyard, a once thriving world now little more than a desolate, waterlogged wasteland. It wasn't always this way. Xylaris had once been one of the galaxy's most promising outpost worlds, rich with resources and teeming with alien wildlife. Its vast oceans had been home to creatures as ancient as time itself, and its dense jungles were filled with species never seen anywhere else in the universe. The planet's biodiversity had made it a key research site for the United Earth Fleet's scientific expeditions, and for a time, Xylaris had flourished, but that was decades ago. Now, Xylaris was dying, its ecosystems collapsing, its wildlife driven to extinction. The once vibrant oceans had drained into murky, stagnant lakes, and the lush jungles had withered into barren wastelands. The few scientists who remained on the planet had long since left, returning to their stations with reports that the world was beyond saving. Yet, Levin had stayed. For him, it wasn't just a mission, it was personal. His father had been one of the first explorers to step foot on Xylaris when the planet was discovered. He had spoken about its beauty, about the life it held, and about the untapped potential it possessed. Levin had grown up hearing stories about the planet, and when the opportunity arose to be part of the last mission to Xylaris, he hadn't hesitated. But now, sitting in his small boat on the last remaining lake, Levin wondered if all those stories had just been illusions. The planet was nearly dead, and he had yet to find any sign that it could be revived. Every day was the same. Levin would rise with the sun, pack his meager supplies, and head out onto the lake, a shimmering pool of water surrounded by desolate cliffs and crumbling rock formations. It was the only water source left, the last remnant of the once great oceans that had covered most of Xylaris, and even that lake was shrinking, its waters slowly receding as the planet's atmosphere deteriorated. Today was no different. Levin cast his line into the still waters, more out of routine than hope. He had been fishing in this lake for weeks, and nothing had taken the bait. There were no ripples, no signs of life beneath the surface, just silence. A silence that stretched on for hours as the sun climbed higher in the sky. Levin sighed, wiping the sweat from his brow as he leaned back in his seat. His boat rocked gently on the water, the rhythmic sound of the oars tapping the sides, the only noise to keep him company. The air was hot and heavy, thick with the scent of decay. He stared out at the lake, half expecting to see a sign of something, anything moving below the surface. But, as always, there was nothing. "This planet's already dead," Levin muttered under his breath, shaking his head in frustration. "I'm wasting my time." Just as he was about to reel in his line, something happened, something unexpected. The fishing rod in his hand jerked violently, the sudden force nearly pulling it from his grasp. Levin's heart skipped a beat as he tightened his grip on the rod, his eyes widening in surprise. It had been weeks since he'd felt anything on the line, and whatever was tugging now was strong. His muscles strained as he fought to control the rod, the line pulling taut, bending under the weight of whatever was below. Levin gritted his teeth, his pulse quickening as he leaned back, using all his strength to reel it in. The rod groaned under the pressure, bending in a way that made him fear it would snap. But Levin held firm, determination fueling his every motion. "What the hell?" he muttered, pulling harder as the creature, or whatever it was, fought back. The water churned around the boat, ripples spreading across the lake, as the thing on the other end of the line came closer to the surface. Levin's heart pounded in his chest, his breath coming in short bursts as he braced himself. Was it a fish, a creature, or some strange alien life form that had survived the planet's collapse? Whatever it was big, far bigger than anything he'd anticipated. Then, slowly, something began to rise from the depths. At first, it was just a shadow beneath the water, a dark shape moving just beneath the surface, but as it broke through, Levin's eyes widened in disbelief. It wasn't a fish. It wasn't even an alien creature. It was a woman. Her form was otherworldly, her pale blue skin glowing faintly as she emerged from the water. She was tangled in Levin's fishing net, her body sleek and slender, her long, silver hair cascading down her back like a waterfall, her eyes large and dark, with an otherworldly shimmer, locked onto his with an intensity that made his breath catch in his throat. She was beautiful, impossibly so, but there was something about her that felt dangerous. Levin froze, his grip on the fishing rod tightening, as he stared at the alien woman in disbelief. She floated just above the surface of the water, the net draped loosely over her form, but she didn't seem to be struggling. In fact, she almost seemed amused by the whole situation, a faint smile tugging at the corners of her lips. What are you?" Levin stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. The woman tilted her head slightly, her dark eyes gleaming with something Levin couldn't quite place. "I am Lyra," she said, her voice soft and melodic, echoing in his mind as if she were speaking directly into his thoughts. "And I have been waiting for you, Levin Harker." Levin's heart skipped a beat. She knew his name. How did she know his name? His mind raced with questions. But before he could ask, Lyra floated closer, her gaze never leaving his. "I have watched you for many days," she continued, her voice smooth and hypnotic. "I know why you are here, searching for life in these dead waters. But you needn't search any longer. Life still thrives here, Levin, and I can help you find it." Levin hesitated, suspicion creeping into his mind. Everything about this felt wrong, too convenient, too perfect. He had spent months searching for any sign of life on Xylaris, and now, out of nowhere, this alien woman appeared, offering him exactly what he had been looking for. "Why would you help me?" he asked, his voice laced with doubt. "What's in it for you?" Lyra smiled, her lips curving into a grin that was both alluring and unsettling. "Because you are the last hope for Xylaris," she said softly, her eyes glinting with something predatory. "The last human who can save this world. All you need to do is trust me." Levin swallowed hard, his instincts screaming at him to be cautious. But there was something about Lyra, something intoxicating, that made it difficult to think clearly. Her presence was overwhelming, her beauty almost otherworldly, and her voice was like a melody, soothing and seductive. He wanted to trust her. He wanted to believe that she could help him save the planet. But something deep inside him, some primal instinct, told him that this was a trap. Lyra leaned closer, her fingers brushing against Levin's cheek. The moment her skin touched his, Levin felt a surge of warmth spread through him, clouding his thoughts even further. "Together," she whispered, her breath warm against his skin, "we can restore this planet to what it once was. All you need to do is trust me." Levin's heart raced as her words echoed in his mind. Trust her? Could he? Or was he being led into a trap? Levin's heart pounded in his chest as he stared into Lyra's dark, hypnotic eyes. Her presence felt like an intoxicating fog, clouding his thoughts and pulling him toward her with an irresistible force. The cool touch of her hand against his cheek sent a wave of warmth through his body, but somewhere deep inside, a small voice of reason screamed for him to resist. She was too perfect, too alluring, too convenient. "I can help you," she whispered, her voice soft and melodic, almost musical. "You've searched for so long, Levin. You've fought so hard. Let me give you what you want." The words sounded like a dream, everything Levin had been hoping to hear. His mission to find life on Xylaris had been one of despair and isolation. And now, here she was, a beautiful alien woman offering him the key to restoring the planet. He could see it in her eyes, feel it in her touch. He wanted to believe her. He needed to believe her. But that voice, deep inside him, wouldn't let go. Something was wrong. "I don't understand," Levin muttered, his voice shaking as he tried to regain control of his thoughts. "What exactly do you want me to do?" Lyra's smile widened, her lips curling into an almost predatory grin. She leaned in closer, her breath warm against his ear. "There is one final creature in this lake," she murmured, her voice smooth and intoxicating, "the last of its kind. It hides deep below, in the dark places where no light reaches. If you can catch it, You will unlock the energy that can restore Xylaris to its former glory. Levin frowned, suspicion gnawing at the edges of his mind. A creature? You want me to catch a fish? Lyra nodded, her fingers tracing a line down the side of his face, leaving a trail of warmth in their wake. Yes, she whispered, but not just any creature. This one is special. It holds the last remnants of the planet's life force. Its capture will trigger the rebirth of Xylaris. Levin's gaze flicked to the water below, the dark, still surface hiding whatever lay beneath. For a moment, he was tempted. Could it really be that simple? Could one final catch, one last creature, bring the planet back to life? But then he saw it, just a flicker of something in Lyra's eyes. Something cold, something calculating. His pulse quickened, and suddenly, the fog around his mind began to lift. The warmth of her touch felt wrong. Her voice, once soothing, to now seemed like a subtle trap, pulling him deeper into something he didn't fully understand. He looked at her again, really looked at her, and what he saw chilled him to the core. Lyra wasn't here to help him. She was here to use him. What happens to the creature once I catch it? Levin asked, his voice steadier now, the fog clearing from his mind. He watched her carefully, searching for any hint of deception. Lyra's eyes narrowed for just a moment, but it was enough. It will be sacrificed, she said, her voice still smooth but now laced with impatience. Its energy will fuel the rebirth of the planet. Without it, Xylaris will continue to wither and die. You must catch it. Levin, you must. Levin's grip tightened on the fishing rod, his mind racing. Sacrificed? The creature held the last of the planet's life force, and she wanted him to kill it. For what? To revive the planet? Or was it something more? A knot formed in his stomach. And suddenly, the pieces began to fall into place. Lyra wasn't here to save Xylaris. She was here to ensure that the planet died, and she needed him to do it. She had been sent to lure him in, to seduce him, and to manipulate him into finishing off the last remnants of life on the planet. His instincts had been right all along. This was a trap. Levin slowly lowered the fishing rod, his eyes never leaving Lyra's. No, he said quietly, his voice firm. I'm not going to do it. Lyra's smile vanished, replaced by a cold, dangerous expression. Her dark eyes narrowed, and for the first time, Levin saw the true depth of her fury. You fool, she hissed, her voice no longer sweet and melodic, but sharp and venomous. Do you think you have a choice? This planet is already dead. Without that creature's energy, it will fade into oblivion, and you with it. Levin took a step back, his mind racing. He had to think fast. Lyra was powerful, and she had the advantage here, but she had made one mistake. She had underestimated him. You've been lying to me from the start, Levin said, his voice growing stronger. You were never here to help me save the planet. You wanted me to finish off the last of Xylaris's life, to drain it dry. Lyra's eyes darkened, and her form seemed to shimmer, the seductive illusion of her beauty giving way to something more sinister. Her skin began to shift, her once perfect face contorting into something monstrous. Her hair, once silver and flowing, twisted into serpentine tendrils, and her glowing blue skin darkened to a sickly green. You are a fool, Levin Harker, Lyra snarled, her voice now a guttural growl. You think you can resist me? You think you can win? The planet is dying. I was offering you a chance to be part of its rebirth. Levin backed up toward the edge of the boat, his mind working quickly. He couldn't fight her directly, not here, not in the middle of the lake. But there had to be a way out. There was always a way out. And then he saw it, the flare gun strapped to his side. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Without hesitation, Levin ripped the flare gun from its holster and aimed it directly at Lyra's monstrous form. Her eyes widened in shock, and for the first time, she seemed to hesitate. What are you doing? She hissed, her voice filled with fury. You think that pathetic weapon can stop me? Levin didn't answer. With one swift motion, he pulled the trigger. The flare shot from the gun in a brilliant flash of red, illuminating the dark waters of the lake as it streaked toward Lyra. She shrieked in pain as the bright light engulfed her, her monstrous form writhing and twisting, as the flare exploded in a burst of heat and fire. For a moment, Levin thought he saw her dissolve into the air, her body disintegrating into wisps of smoke. And then, she was gone. The boat rocked gently on the now still waters, the remnants of the flare flickering out in the distance. Levin stood there for a long moment, his breath coming in ragged gasps as the adrenaline slowly drained from his body. Lyra was gone, but so was the last chance to revive Xylaris. Levin stared out across the lake, his heart heavy with the weight of what had just happened. The planet was dying, and there was nothing left for him to save. But at least he had stopped her, stopped whatever she had been, from finishing off the last remnants of life on Xylaris. With a heavy sigh, Levin lowered the flare gun and turned the boat toward the shore. The sun had begun to rise, casting a warm, golden glow over the lake. The planet may have been doomed, but Levin had made his choice. He wasn't going to be part of its destruction. He would survive, even if the planet didn't, and as long as there was life left in him, he would protect whatever small slivers of hope remained. Xylaris might die, but Levin Harker would live to tell the tale. This concludes the story. Thank you for listening. Please take a moment to leave a comment of your favorite part and any future story suggestions. Liking the video and subscribing is much appreciated.